Ja, jag sa tini, kat Johan, tachonach jag. Gun cheese, har ju katangi hög Xeiyí ti. Testa sa a yach kuge har ju katangi. Haji yes wutuk yach. Hausa neer har ju katangi. Achoeach tu yake ya yake. Chosatin. Hasha yiteheen. Ya. Konachoe yi itina chayati. Yi itina chayati. Atchisati Johan, atchisati. Gwell techa chatledushu tak shuahi. Unéi a Lingich tu. Ja, ach tin. Guste hin you sagen. Ach klar du ish. Dak away dichsati. Ye awa shkakwe. A ye hawutien. Gudesa hasbo. Ach ye hawutien shkakwe. Ye de goed aya unéi awa wuniko. Ja, tukre aya unéi aya unéi. De khanch aya ye khatti mutien. Wujin you khatil atken. Pleit kak enach. De dark ka khanakawni. Get out saku. It leaf. Just ho away out saku. It's the katach ikas kashas our school. Kat ka kashasaka. Hasak aya achch. Kash at haslayer hoa. Where you khatang. A joey khawus. Eske wasak kwati. Ach letu. Ya hayu khatangi. Akawe unéi ahi outlet. Nadakawe a kachucher. Eid. Yadu a eid. Cook. Kachwa ak. Kashyachot lakwa. Khat ushuk. Shukwa tashachwashku. Khat ushuk. Drake a ding kachwa ak. We klingit. Enach. Xeiyí. Dat yachsa away. Du ach chaya yuchatangi. Ach tuwasáakw. Ayach aya yuchewatan. Achawe Minneapolis. Akechat wutien. 1996. Kwalkiwe. Yes aya katak. Kusani achjiho a kache kachshit. Asai. Shengit chinach. You ayach wati. Telkach chinach. Shengit telkach. Sheochiach yati we cook. Okaya. Stichach tun. Asandu asak. Nats kla ka shachu ka. Pasoe has out leyech. Aka away. Kuch with the teeny. Kuch the teen. Shkakwe. Ja ach klar du dat chat ja was talking. Aka away. Yang. Unéi ye jek unéi. Yang away. Teka nask tak shuahihen. Yak hawutien. Shengit chinach yuchasha atki. Shengit tu wooch in ye jitooné. Ye awa ya yagi tek tatke. What dech yagi shuahi kleatke. Unéi aya adati jechonéen. Ja khashuktlaqay tud. Da sa an paika kwashatu. Eish aya akhantu chakak. Kanachoya hit outleqen. Ade awa kehas awa shiye. Ye awa eish. Khatqa. Gunil cheese a khanti gudi. Gunil cheese a khanti takini. aadé kakitashi yahayuchatangitin. Akakeske guchladzi yahayuchatan. Keske guchladzi. Ye awachakakaya yagi kagachi ach. Akakeske guchladzi yahayuchatangi. Gulchisha Xeiyí sa achi, Shtakat Johan. Ya ide yucha kwatan let hachina shuchwa yucha gwus. Ya dasa iach dasa idaya kushiske. Gulchisha Xeiyí sa achi. Okay. Okay. What kinds of things did you hear?
26.
Yeah, 26. What do you guys think I was talking about?
Age.
That's pretty close. I was maybe 26 at that time. So it's pretty close. But yeah. So I said, Techa katedushu talk. What would that part be? Talk. Years. Shuwahi.
Ago.
What's that?
Was it 26 years ago?
Yes. So Shuwahi is for something to expire. So what it really means, it ran to its end. So, but that's how you mark the passage of time, especially for years, or it's really Shuwahi 2 years ago. Right. So that's how you do like mark specific time. What happened 26 years ago?
You start learning Tlingit, David?
I started learning Tlingit with who?
In Minneapolis.
I got to Minneapolis. All right, see a hand up.
Who's your grandparent?
Ishk, achta, du ish. What does that do?
Your
Achta,
mother's father.
my mother, her father. Yep. Right. Or their father. Right. That's how it works. So that's how you can go. This like Klingatundetani. Someone's like, hey, how are you related to Paul Wilson? I was like, oh, Paul Wilson? That's my mother's father's sister's son. Right. That's how we're related. But that's because you could do that in Tlingit. You just go all the way up and all the way over. Right. Achta, du ish, glak, du eat. And just so you add d every time. Yeah, so I started learning Tlingit. His stomach started to he got real sick in his stomach, so I went home to stay with him. And his sister told me something. That he was the only one of the siblings that spoke Tlingit. The others, they could understand it. He was the only one who spoke. So I asked him, would it be okay if you taught me? So he pointed at something on the table and he said, age. I tried to say it. He's like, Gook, go ahead. Tried to say it, had a hard time. So he laughed at me because that's how he was. He just laughed at all kinds of people. He was a very funny person. He's always laughing. And just stuff just happened to him. And he was also he was Duckawady, but he had full on Raven vibes all the time. So my cousin grew up in their house. They have a little 1-story house in Shklakwe. There's only 4 rooms in the whole house, real small, single-story house. And there was a young guy who had been there a million times. He was my cousin's really close friend. And he came over and he's like, where's Bo? My grandpa, without missing a beat, didn't think about it, goes, Bo's upstairs. And he starts walking this way, he goes, where's the stairs? And it was hilarious because he had been there a million times. There's no stairs in the whole house, right? But he was like real sharp like that. So when he laughed at me, it didn't hurt my feelings. But I was like, I want him to not laugh at me. So my first goal was to learn how to make the sounds in Tlingit. I was like, I'm gonna make these sounds then. And you have to find a new way to laugh at me, right? And so that became like part of my passion. Then in Minneapolis, something.
You're writing like in a book.
Yes.
You're writing your name, right?
Well, not my name. So when I say Xeiyí, What I'm talking about there.
The names of
The names of things.
Yes. Right. So you could also say atsai. But when we were talking about what are we going to call a noun, it was kehinok. He said asai, because in Tlingit, a noun is just something's name. It's all you're saying. It's the name of something. That's why you say wasa tuwasáakw. What's it called? Wasa tuwasáakw, waita, nadak. Wasa tuwasáakw, yata, Xeiyí gucha. Right? So I had anybody learn from the Orange Dictionary in here? Any Orange Dictionary, folks? No. It's a generational thing. As far as like language learning, not as far as like your age, right? So in 1997, I found a Tlingit noun dictionary. It's orange. I'll bring one in. It's a classic. I think there's got to be a scanned version of it. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. So I could tell you how hard we had it studying Tlingit back in the day.
There's also a verb dictionary that's orange also.
Yeah, it's like kind of gold.
Oh yeah.
Let's see.
Trying to get all the dictionaries downloaded to my phone.
Oh, good. I've got-
Pulled up and rely entirely on my phone rather than my memory. Yeah.
Okay, I'll find. Oh, is this here?
I don't even have to learn anything, just can.
Oh, the chat bot
You
thing.
talking about this one?
I can't see it. I just see tree. Yes. See, that was orange at one point. Like just really orange. It's a very weird.
So they could see how bad you had it.
Yeah, so not alphabetical. It is organized by categories in English. So like birds, household items, people and careers, right? Which is cool.
Wait a minute.
But if someone said,
That's wrong. Hold on.
oh yeah, it's fading into your background because itself is so
Yeah.
thick. So if someone said Xeiyí, you would have to just flip through the dictionary until you saw, right? Like if you didn't know what it was. But anyway, so in Minneapolis, I found a little box of blank flashcards, and I wrote down every single one of the nouns that are in there. And then I color coded them on the top with a highlighter by categories.
Here we go.
Walk around. You'd laugh like it.
Let's go. Here we go.
I don't even know where those flashcards are. I think I lost them. So this is how I learned nouns. So nouns were the first thing that I started with. And I would just walk everywhere I went. I just walked around and I would just say them and say them and say them and say them and say them. And look at it, say them, look at it, say them, look at it. Then once I felt like I was getting it memorized, I would say it, then I would say it in English, and then I'd say it in Tlingit, say it in English, and then flip it over. And once I felt like I had that, I would flip it, I would look at the English and see if I could think of the Tlingit word. And once I felt like I got that, I shuffled them all up so that they were in a different order, right? And so that's where I kind of started my language journey. Came back to help take care of my grandma, my mother's mother. And then I came here to UAS 23 years ago for a language gathering where we were encouraged to just speak Tlingit. That's where I met Richard and Nora Dowenhauer. That is where I met June Peggy. That's where I met Selena Everson. That's where I met Ken Austin. There are a number of different elders there. Paul Jackson was probably there. And that's when I started to really start to accelerate my studies. And I wanted to be able to talk to these old people. Because when I would talk to them, they would just it would just flow. And I would think, that's what I want to figure that out. I want to figure out what they're talking about, and I want to be able to talk to them. Because even then, 23 years ago, I noticed when they got together, they spoke all the time. But then they would tell me they don't really have anyone else to talk to, even then. So that has sort of gone on. Okay. What else? Did I say anything else?
We're talking about us like hearing things, saying things and stuff, and I think you, at one point, if I remember correctly, you said it's not about it's not about saying it correctly or something like that. I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, it was if you try every day, it will become not difficult.
Not
That's how we
difficult,
say
okay.
easy. Like, yeah. And Lingi, it just tells you things. Like we don't have no word for easy. You just say not difficult. It will be easy.
Okay.
But that's like you've got to go every single day. You go every single day. And I get happy this time of year because like just seeing everybody, how many people are coming around our language right now, and how much amazing stuff we have. Just that has been given to us. Mountains of things by elders like Frank Italio, Frank Dick, Peters, Willie Marks, an extensive list of elders who have left us wonderful things. And then some who have, some go back into the 50s for people who were born in the 1860s. And then some, just as recent as this summer, it's documenting speakers, talking with them. Thoughts, reflections, questions?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of get to the point of like learning where rather than trying to like memorize things perfectly, you know, you try to like incorporate parts of the language into your life so you can just kind of practice on the go. You can just kind of just say things in the language and try to communicate in the language, and that's how you get better at the language.
Yes, yes, and there's different approaches that people are taking to language learning. Like some folks are looking at whole speeches or whole stories and completely memorizing those stories. And I think it's great. I think we need people who can tell the stories. There's so many Tlingit stories that are out there. I think this academic year we will study Anach Idaq, Kutziti at Kushagao, Pagha, Kuhanti, Yeshkata, Yeshka Kuditan Kehiti, Yeshkayai. At least those, because those are really good. Anybody recognize any of those? Duktuk.
Somewhere about yes.
Yeah,
Raven.
Yeshka,
Raven and the Whale.
Raven and the Whale.
Raven and Sea Lion, the mosquito story,
Yeah, Tagha.
Strong Man.
Yeah, what?
Tachan, Strongman were in the Hashuka, I remember.
We know that one. It's you guys' thing. It's the wealth movement. It just has a long name. Kutziti at Kushagao. Anybody know any of those? Kutziti at or Kushagao?
Kudziti is born somewhere.
Yeah, Kutzit, yes, to exist. That is correct. And for some reason, when you say Kutziti at, literally mean thing that exists. Although we'd probably say Kustin at on the coast. I don't know. But it's a giant.
Oh.
So the Battle of the Giants. That's I think that's one of the first stories we're going to work on because it took place right down there. And then Anach Idaq took place right here. I think Kutziti Kushagao is a shorter story. Both of them do have some scary parts to them, just so that we're clear. My cab driver, well, I had to take a lift to go pick up my car. The Lyft driver today told me, and it was interesting because it was an older lady, older, I would say older than my mother would have been. And she had a British accent. I'm not trying to stereotype, but I was surprised when she said, well, if your students aren't doing or they're not listening, and they're not into it, tell them the kushta class is going to get them. So it's like, well, that's one tactic, okay. And so I guess she was married to a Xinget for a long time, who turned out to be a kushta class, what she said. I was like, not sure if we're using this word correctly, but keep going. Okay.
Kushta stories are great.
I think they're wonderful. So kushta is not a scary thing either. So there are some violent moments in each of these stories. So just be warned. One of them ends quite violently. One of them has a lot of violence. I was telling my kid this when she was like 3 years old. And a hidak story. Because they're just stories to me. I'm gonna do Goldilocks. Come on. And then so I told her the story, and then I stopped. It was all in Schengen. And I stopped and I said, Yata ayachaya cooking a coutachitchen. So I said, this, maybe I'm not going to tell it to you. This one's kind of scary, and I don't want you to be scared. Just tell it, just say it. So I did. We get done, and I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I'll remind me, you'll remember this story later, because I told the whole story, and she goes, what was the scary part? I was like, there's a whole thing. And so I thought it was cute. I told my wife, and she's like, don't tell her stories like that again. So we'll start with those. So we're going to use stories to go in and dive around. It's like going into the halibut hole and getting some full language. Because we got to go down for the deep sea fish. We got to go talk to the halibut this year. Beginning Tlingit is, you do a lot, I think. You do a ton. And I think you can do a lot. But for intermediate, we got to start getting into the Tlingit thought world. That means we got to go way down where we're not holding our breath, we're breathing underwater. And it's okay. It's going to be okay. I think one of my approaches this year is to talk about overcoming the psychology of use. Don't want you to be afraid to use the language. Like, we'll figure it out. I think that's the only way you do it, right? Or else you become someone who knows a lot about the language. But then when someone asks you to say something, you just can't, like Nora said, a person hasn't pried it out of their hands yet. That's what she said when it gets stuck in your mouth. So it was amazing. We'll look at that speech in its entirety. And that whole speech was amazing. Xeiyí, Nora marks down how I worked with her for a couple of decades. And her husband, Richard Downhow. Brilliant, amazing people. And Richard, unfortunately, passed away. And between the time he got a diagnosis and was gone, it was just a matter of months. It was really just, we were reeling from it because he had done so much. And he took such good care of Nora. And on the day of his funeral, we got together and we're talking about this big Raven book and how are we going to finish this thing now? And we're just sitting there trying to figure out how we're going to, I think we're sitting there figuring out how we're going to start the meeting. And then she just gives us this incredible speech in Tlingit. And luckily, Xeiyí Kathy Reddy was there and hit record on her phone. I don't know how she did it like so fast. But then we had that recording. And then I worked with Nora on that recording and say, like, how would you interpret this? What were you saying? And we got it. Which we'll listen to it, maybe on the break. So we got to all say hello. Or anybody feels stressed. Okay, if you ever feel anxiety because you're going to be put on the spot, because you're nervous that someone's going to listen to you, there's a lot of negativity around learning Tlingit and using Tlingit. I don't think it helps us one bit. I've heard people say, if you can't say it right, don't say it at all. I don't believe in that. I've heard people who just I see them and I could tell that they're kind of making fun of people in the way they talk. I don't believe in that either. Sometimes people will say some things that are funny. I think it's okay to laugh at funny moments. Okay. One time when my kids was little, it was bedtime and they threw a fit and they went to kick the bed, and instead they kicked me right in a very sensitive area. And I was very upset, and I wanted to say, don't kick me. But I said, and she said, I'm not fishing you. And so, like, it's funny. Some of the moments can be funny, but we just keep, I think, wooch ye. So I think if we always have respect, we'll be okay. That's what it means to be Shaa, a self-respecting person. We respect each other. That means we can laugh, we can have fun. Like Xeiyí is so much fun, so much laughter. It's such a deep, rich language as well. But if we're hurting someone, we have to be able to recognize that. We just have to. And we have to just sort of pull it back and make sure that the things that we're operating from is respecting one another, always working together, always helping each other. What's the last one I said? And always healing one another. Whether you are born Xeiyí and you felt like you didn't have access to this language, or if you weren't born Xeiyí and you might have connections to people who did bad things to this language, there's a lot to recover from. And we can do that. We say, I said a number of things earlier in the class. I said, Hesh dasa ayach kuge ha yu chatungi. We know what that is. Hesh dasa ayach kuge ha yu chatungi.
I know pieces of it, but not the whole thing.
Nothing measures up to our language.
Oh yeah, it's something practically.
It is. There when she said it, it was amazing. I asked her, how do you say fight for your language? So it's Shukshani March. She said, Akach kunai shagao hayu chatungi. Benach akach kunai shagao. Heshta sa ayakuge hayu chatungi. She was powerful. She was so amazing. I also said, Hajiyis wudutleyech hayu chatungi. Hajiyis wudutleyech hayu chatungi. It's not a test. None of this is a test. What's Hajiyis?
We give. We give. Or
That we give
For us,
for us. Hajidach would be like from us. Hajiyis, given to us or for us. What about wudutleyech? It was made for us. I heard that one from Dísi, Ethel Mack. And then Hausenech Hayuchatangi. What that? Hausenech Hayuchatangi.
Our language saved us.
Our language saved us, our language healed us. I heard that one from Selena Everson, Kasech. So, thinking of all of this, like this is like tone setting for the next year on how we're going to be studying together. We're going to try some things. which some of them are going to be adding to things we've already tried. Some of us have been on Tlingit Discord. Some of us have been on a base camp. We're trying different things to try and push the language community a little bit closer together. We're going to bring back the super class this year. I know we kind of didn't do that very much in the spring, where we try and get all sections of Tlingit together, just to look at each other's faces, hear each other's voices. We're also going to work on setting up, and don't wait for us, like us being Xeiyí, Ida, and myself, don't wait for the teachers to set up study sessions, conversation times, but we will give you we'll try and develop some methods where we can create sign-up sheets for folks to have those times to study. Because you could do a lot by yourself, but I think you could do a lot more working with other folks. As long as like you're doing do the thing. We're also going to experiment with some things for those who are in the Juneau area, which I encourage you to also do where you are, especially if you have other learners and speakers around, is trying to have more language outings. Let's go harvest Xeiyí in Tlingit. Let's go to the grocery store. Let's go to, I'm supposed to say, Shakudzi Hoots, which would be what? Super Bear. But I always call it Shinuxi Hoots because I make mistakes. And my kid's like, we're going to Sugar Bear? And so you go shopping, like everyone's got to do grocery shopping, right? What if we just said, everybody doesn't have to go, but those who are speaking Tlingit, maybe we'll go during these times. Could we get a Tlingit group together to take over a restaurant? We'll all pay for our own food, but we're going to ask that everything be either silent or in Tlingit. And we can maybe find a partner to do this kind of stuff. Okay, so before we go any further, we should all take turns saying something. So I would like you to tell us who you are, and I would like you to, let's see, we're gonna say who you are. We're gonna say, just say one thing in Tlingit that's not part of a memorized introduction. And it doesn't matter if it's already been said. And it doesn't matter if it's a single word or a phrase. If you got your big speech already lined up, great. And so who, you're gonna say something in Tlingit, and then how about a hope for the semester? And maybe you're nervous about, you're scared of. And I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot. I know sometimes speaking in front of people can give you anxiety. This is not a performance. We're just getting to know each other, because that's an important part of the process. So your name, say something in Tlingit, say something, then switch back to English, say something you're hopeful about for this semester, and then something that you're worried about this semester. Okay, who wants to go first?
Tuwasáakw, Lingi Xeiyí, Alexander Xeiyí tuwasáakw, English Xeiyí, ach dich kudach.
Oh, and then in English, one thing you're hopeful about this semester?
Hopeful to just learn and also make new friends. Can't wait to go to Super Bear. Can't wait to go to restaurants, and just happen to forget my wallet, and can't wait for all that, you know.
And something you're nervous about?
Something I'm nervous about that I'll forget it and be like break times. I want to make sure that I practice really good.
Yeah, that's Cheech.
I'll go next.
Oh.
Sani yuchatusa yechnachasati ak kwan ayayet yachihit.
Oh.
I hope as I do not hurt anybody's feelings, because I know how difficult it is to learn. it is my second time doing this class. And I'll probably be, like I said earlier, that guy that goes down with a loom, has to do it 3 times before they begin to see clearly. That's what I see myself doing. I am a child of someone who was raised at a place called Crystal Springs. And that was the first name before it became Morning Star. It's out of Portland.
Oh, okay.
So I struggle with language and I will be really quiet, but I'm listening. And I'm working on it. And I'm taking cognitive behavior to learn to say different things in my head. So instead of saying, get out of here, you're in a classroom and the lights are bright. I'm going around, no, I'm looking forward to learning the place names and the stories and the songs because it ties me to this land and I do not want anybody taking it away like they took it away from my mom and my dad. So I'm just an old person, just here again, but I won't give up. And you might see me again even next year.
Okay.
Sheesh.
It's a cool, huh? Should we do, let's do the whole room, we'll do the room first and we'll go online. And then other times we'll do it in reverse.
I hope this semester is like better than last year, because last year was kind of questionable. But I hope this one's good. And the scary thing is that I might end up going to UAF, and I really don't want to leave.
Okay. Jeez. Let me know how we can help keep you here.
Hi, Idak, you had to sock. That gosh, kind of John, you had to sock. The thing I'm looking for is that the Tlingit language actually sticks with me and I actually can start thinking in Tlingit. Scary thing. I just won't quite get the hang of Tlingit yet. On that.
Harper Xeiyí. I think something I'm hopeful for is just to have like better understanding, be able to like understand people talking and understand recordings. And then I think something scary is to work through the confidence of using and speaking the language.
Jeez. Okay. Those of you online, let's go first.
I can do that.
Good.
Xeiyí Rasha McChesney. The thing that I can remember, I still have to read, but it's ye away hua ach gagan I kach we tunach ye undergun, which is an insult that Unéi taught us last semester, which means I hear the sun shines through your coffee, which is like the funniest thing I've ever heard. I think about that phrase like once a week. And then I'm gonna swap the like thing I'm nervous about and thing I hope for this semester is the thing I'm nervous about is that I've learned that I tend to pick up languages really quickly through repetition and pattern recognition. And so I sort of slammed into this wall with Tlingit grammar buckets. And every time I try to sort it out, I'm like, whoa, what's a pronoun again? So I have some anxiety about that, just being able to like know what part of the pattern I'm in so I can recognize it. And so my hope for this semester is, you know, we had a couple of those large classes where people came in and just sort of casually dropped their tricks for how they were like learning what the verb root was. And I remember having a class where someone was just like, oh, it's like usually these 3 letters. And I was just like, oh. So I'm hoping to like pick up more people's tricks because it's really helpful.
Okay, cheese.
I can go next. Skunk at si klein ayach Xeiyí. Leika kenach Mike Tadine, you hat Chitka Kuchziti, Seattle Kuchau, Chitka Dach Kuukatin. And I don't know how to say last summer or this summer, but that was, I went to Sitka again this summer. Something I'm hopeful for, obviously, same thing everybody else is to learn more. I'm looking forward to getting more verbs and being able to say, and remembering the verbs mainly, how I did this, how I do that, and also the cases. Thing that I am probably most scared of is I don't have a lot of other people around to talk to. And I don't have a lot of time to go to other online sessions. I work full time. So I'm afraid I'm going to fall behind because of that.
Jeez. Dísi.
Get all go. Gloria Akla Saik Ayahat Sati Safiga Yuhat Finga Sagu Sayi Suhaka Kewa'a. And let's see, a hopeful thing is that I will hopefully be able to remember some of my beginning Tlingit, since I think I've done beginning for like 2 or 3 years now, so I figured it was time to dive in. And actually, I guess that was my scary thing. My hopeful thing is that I'm often better at like understanding the harder part, and then that helps me understand the easier part. So I'm hoping that intermediate will help lock in the beginning stuff.
Yeah. Jeez. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. Okay. Yvonne, you do a stack, and then I phrase Asne kudas. I'm making a sweater.
Yeah.
Kudas. And I'm nervous about falling behind for sure. I also have to miss some classes sometimes because of work, and I'm worried that it'll take me a while to catch up. But I'm really grateful and excited that you've helped create such a space where people are comfortable learning at their own paces.
Jeez. What?
I can go next.
Oh.
Okay, Hannah, da Shawat you hawk to us auch. Lingi Hanach, Michelle Thompson, Jade Kachanach. Yanyedi Hasati at Len Kwandach. Kwanin Hasati, Kwanin Aya Ye Hatiati. Cheat Woo. There's no Cheat Woo here. I had sentences to thank Cheat Woo for supporting me and teaching me and helping me, and he's not even here. So it's a pleasure to meet you, Unéi. For those of you who wouldn't know, which is all of you, Unéi is friends with the gentleman who lives 2 doors away from where I do, and they're besties, and he comes over quite often to the Yukon. And I've heard a lot about Unéi in my Tlingit training and language learning. So it's really incredibly exciting for me to be here in your class now and being taught by you. So gunnarshish, gunnarshish. I'm a 60 scoop, and I have been speaking Tlingit for 252 days now. And I just want more, and I want more. And after that, I need more. So that's where I'm going, and I'm going to be a Tlingit teacher is my ultimate end goal. And that's, yeah. So my hope for the semester is that I'm gonna score aces and fly, and you're just gonna give me a degree and let me go, and that'd be great. I'm worried that you won't, so.
Okay.
I can go next.
Oh, sorry. Nope. You go.
Okay. Lauren Yuchat Duasak. Unéi Gunashish Ach Ich at Yiltuwu. I hope I said that correct. It's been a minute. I am hopeful to become more confident in my speaking and being able to not read. I'm very great at reading and writing it down, and I'm very interested in learning the grammar, but I don't have much confidence in taking off with it. And working for the Forest Service as a travel relations specialist now, I really want to be able to have conversations. That's really important to me. And what I'm worried about is not getting past that. Not getting past, not gaining the confidence, I guess, being too fearful.
Okay, cheese.
Jack Shaa Yuchat Duasáakw Glenkach Beth Johnson. Yak e Yikwastini. Achdush Aya. Okay, I guess he doesn't want to come be on camera. I am really looking forward to unpacking more of what I have decided is the Xinget puzzle box. Whereas every time you unlock one level, you open it up and there's another level underneath. I am nervous about no longer living in Xinget country, in Xingetani. I am now up in Wasilla, sitting surrounded by boxes where we just moved up, and I have not found speakers up here yet. I know that we have, there have to be some around here somewhere, but I'm used to having speakers that I can see in church on Sunday. And, like we can just speak Xinget with Jeff Lear. And, well, I can't just go on a walk through the forest with him anymore.
Yeah, well, cheese.
I'll go. Shlik Yuchat Duasak like Kahinach Ali Yuchat Duasak Cha'ak Nachat City Wishkitana Yachat Kuts Uyahana Kahidi Deshitan Dashkhan. And I'm hopeful that I can dedicate myself more this year to learning this language, and I'm nervous that my schedule is pretty packed. I think I'll make it.
Cheese. Who's next? Let's keep rolling.
Hey, can you get to us all? You can get to tea, duck den tan I get chucany, yeti get to tea, chucany dash can I get. I'm pretty tired today. My hopeful thing is I'm just excited to be learning my language again. I grew up in the SNEP program, and so I think my scary is Vida Davis, Ethel Mackinnon, Ann Johnson. And so I think you're like my first new teacher, and I think that's a little scary. I think it's also like I've never thought of myself as an intermediate language speaker, but I talked to like Chukan about it, and she said I should take this class. And so I'm nervous about that, but excited to be here.
Jeez.
I'll go next.
Shradek yuchat duasak Blakecock nach Christina aya Xeiyí, Yesh nach Hatsati, Tluknachadi ayachat, Kayashka hit, Yeduasak Hanaka hidi, Mexican yadi, Shangu kedi Dutch Khan, Kingesti Yedusagun, Achlish, Chukanedi aya Achdakanuku, Hunak ye chat yati, and Yegugank chat yanik. I think I'm going to start with nervous. I'm similar to Allie. I'm nervous that my schedule is super full. I am in a new role in the elementary here in Huna. I am the Tlingit language teacher for pre-K through 5th grade. And I am hopeful to strengthen my knowledge and also the language program that we have here. Chish.
Okay, Chish.
I can go. Shadak, Yuchat Duasak, Deshitan, Hatsati, Sagedi hit, Daka, can get Deshu hit, Mangoon. My introduction is a little rusty, getting back in the swing of things. I haven't been as present tonight as much as I would like because I'm also chairing another meeting, so I got a vice chair. But I'm happy to be here. I'm a little bit nervous, and I'm just taking it. I'm taking it slow. I'm not quitting. Life is very busy, but that's okay. Unéi helps make it possible for all of us at whatever speed we're at, and lots of encouragement just to keep us going on the ladder upward. I'm looking forward to the year. Little sheesh.
Hey, sheesh.
Okay. Nagias tla yuchat duasak, Yech nachat sati, Dr. Tana ayachat, Halk you duasak anakahiri, Wushkitan yadi. Braylon Martin, or Tleka Hinach Braylon Martin, Carolyn Martin, Ka John Martin, you do a sock Achluk, Huna Kawu Katinya Gi Kawu Awe Uchan. So hi. Oh, the thing I was gonna say was Berkeley so I'm down in school right now in Berkeley. And so that's probably the thing I'm most nervous about is it was good to do, or it's good to have this online option available. And it was really helpful with beginning last year. But now that we're kind of jumping into stringing everything together, I'm worried about the distance learning. So I'm really hoping to apply myself and work hard. So that doesn't get in the way too much. And yeah, I think on the flip side, it's cool to actually, be speaking and being less formulaic or wanting to do that. Ganesh Chish, thank you.
Okay. One left, one, maybe two.
I'll go. Josephine, Yuchat Duasak. I'm hopeful. Okay, so I'm hope to build on my vocabulary, and I feel like if I learn how to utilize the resources, so when I do recognize some words that are spoken, I'm able to look it up. And I'm not at that level, but I'm also interested in translation, and I got no worries. Goodness cheese.
Goodness cheese.
أنا أخ لقى أيا هاد لقى ياري أيا خد كخاس نيج I'm hopeful that this semester I will get some of the verb patterns in my head enough to just use verbs off the cuff. And the thing I'm nervous about is sometimes I start getting overwhelmed in language classes, and then the words start leaving my brain faster than they come in. So I don't want to get into that place.
Okay. Atlen gonna cheese just to cut you ha. Ye awa khwaach ya klein yacheti ya ha yuchatangi. Ya klein yacheti ya ha yuchatangi. Wooch in a gachtu ha. Gwash gone aya judich wet. Ye a chai yan kakki satan. Tuwasáakw kwati. Gwash gone aya kakwakuch hayagu. Tig dain wooch in a gachtu ha. Yinde night su aya ye a chai. Ye oe kach achkuk oe ye hasa yo sakad kesh ke has. Yinde night su ye a chai. Gwash choa kone ichu de chwet. Kone ayaka gwashi tayagu yana shit yak. Tesha atina cha odi touch the cut uhan. Gwash gil sa. Yiji yisagach tu cha. Tsu ayakachtu shit hin chukach. Hashishko has aadé. Hashishko has aadé. So, what you recognize? Then we'll take our break. Anything?
Our grandparents.
Yes.
A boat, and we'll get there.
Yeah.
Our grandparents' land we will
together.
Go to, or
we're heading towards them. Yes. What about Yakchain
I'm pretty sure the boat was a big boat.
Yes. Our language is like a big canoe. I've heard this. The elders have said this to me. So in a big canoe, let's think about this. Like think of all the things y'all said. I just want to make sure that you know. When we first start paddling a big canoe, everyone's got to dig hard. You got to paddle hard. Aha is the verb for paddling. Agachtucha wuchin. Tichdein. It's going to be difficult. But that doesn't mean it's going to be hard. It just means you're going to have to work hard. But when that canoe, there's a phrase, yanashit. That canoe is just gliding. When it's just gliding across the water. Then, if you begin to get tired hands, you can put your paddle down. And it's still going to be gliding. So I don't want you to worry about where you're at, falling behind. I think those are colonial concepts. I really think that they are. So no matter where we're at, we're just going to try and keep an eye on each other. Just vocalize, even if you just say, whoa, I'm feeling lost. But also, there's something that happens. And you don't have to be intermediate to be here. You should be intermediate by the end of the year. That's how it works. You do a year and because you're not a beginner when you take beginning Tlingit. Well, you might be. But a lot of people aren't. They're just started. By the time they're done with a year, they're a beginner. By the time they're done with 2 years, they're intermediate. By the time they're done with 3 years, they're advanced. So keep that in your mind, because lots of people say, well, I don't want to take advanced because I'm not advanced yet. It's like, of course you're not. This is what gets you there, right? But it's also, I understand, it's intimidating, it's wild. I was just sitting around with this is year 2 for you guys, so I'll just say it. Tlingit is difficult sometimes. Richard Downer, I love him. He used to say like day 1, class 1, beginning Tlingit. This is probably the hardest language in the whole world. Lie to them, Richard. Lie to them. So I was just like, oh, this is really fun. This is interesting. Those are my synonyms for difficult. But, you know, we were sitting around this summer and we're like, did our ancestors just get together and be like, you know, it'd be really hard if we did it this way, right? But I just want you to keep this stuff in mind, that a lot of the fears that we have, the fear of use is going to be your English brain letting go. And letting the Tlingit brain just take off. Because it can happen. There's not a competition for space. But I think there's a weird thing with English and colonization, where the English believes it's under attack and it's being threatened. And sometimes we'll hear people say this, right? And it sounds kind of ridiculous, right? Like we did an immersion trip at Aksani Klein, Fred Myers. And we stayed in the language, we had little flyers that we would hand to people who were usually our friends and relatives that say, we're in immersion, I'm not being rude, but I'm not gonna speak English to you. And it was always like the aunties and uncles and cousins are like, oh, that's really neat, you're in immersion, how's it going? Like it would read the thing and just keep talking. So it would just like, go shoo them off, right? But there was a group that was in Tlingit and they were talking. And then there was these two people there that looked at them and said, if they want to live here, they better learn how to speak English, right? Which was ironic, right? So it's like really dedicated, but also like, so that's the example we sort of think is out there. But there's another one too, which is inside of ourselves, and it's that English brain that does not want to lose control, but you just have to assure that side of yourself. It's okay, self. There's going to be a whole nother consciousness in here, and it's not going to gobble you alive. I think the English language is like, just heard a million times about the twins that were babies and one ate the other one. Because like, it's just weird things. But like, so we'll talk a lot about strategies to stay connected, what we're trying to do here. We'll also have lots of check-ins, but don't lose faith in yourself and in what you're going to be able to do. Because a year from now, you'll be like, whoa, I remember when I couldn't do that kind of stuff. Okay. Let's take 6 minutes and we'll come back and we'll just do a little bit of examination of some language. We'll look at a few foundational things for the semester that I went over with in Advanced Tlingit last night. And then we'll just have some fun with some little short phrases. Okay, take 5, take 6, take 7. Okay, so there's 2 things up here. Anybody want to read these 2 things? Ashaguk. There's no W in that. Ashaguk. What do these things translate to?
Is like the ku there, like in the root word for yisaku and stuff like that?
Okay, yeah. So there's ku.
Yeah.
And there's like a S. So that, well, if we wanted it. Oh, there's different way. Okay, let's see. Have you folks done very much of what we call like segmentation and glossing?
At the end of beginning.
In the beginning.
It's like a big ass.
Somewhat.
Okay, so yeah, it would take.
I don't know what you mean by those to be able to tell you.
Okay, so this is the segment. So like you see right there, Xingit, that's
Pretty sure we did, Beth.
Okay, so that stays the same, Xingit. You can't really break that down into any other part. So what segmenting means is it means we're just gonna pull it apart to show you the parts that are there. The reason that we do that is because Xingit is polysynthetic, which means it's made up of a bunch of little things that like to smush together and become one big thing. But it becomes impossible to memorize the language. You have to know how it functions. It's the same thing with Mohawk. It's the same thing with Mohawk. I think from the things that folks have shared with me, they had a really hard time making new speakers. But then they color-coded the whole language and started teaching it in these parts and teaching people how those parts get together. and function and what they do when they run into each other, and then people started getting it, right? So this one is the one that we can pull apart. There's a few different things in here. And if I was going to separate those things, what do you think some of the things would be? What would the first thing be? It'd be the last thing.
The root.
First one, we want to go left to right. So we will get to ku, so I'll put that in there.
Somewhere we need an object and a subject.
There's an a. Something comes right after the a. If we haven't done this before, it's totally fun.
I think
Oh,
W is
classifier.
usually past tense, isn't it?
Yeah, so there it is. That's what this thing looks like if we expand it, that W. And if we were inland speakers, usually from Tesson or Carcross, not always from Atlan, we would say upsiku. Okay, so we're right here. There's two more things. Two things left.
Subject.
What do you think it's going to be?
No.
Probably no.
Yep. One thing left.
Probably a classifier.
Classifier is the S.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is what we call the segment. And what it says is like, what would this look like if we just pull it apart? Right? I love this kind of stuff, but I think it's because my dad was he was a technician for a telephone company. It was called RCA, and then it became Alascom, and then it became AT&T, and now it's just AT&T because they own the world, right? But he used to an alarm clock, a telephone, and he'd say, take it apart. And so we'd take it apart. How fun is that? Just take the whole thing apart. And it'd say, put it back together and make it work. And so that was always like a really fun thing. It probably was a trick to just keep us from bothering it, but it was really fun. It was really fun. So I like to do that with language too. For some people, they don't like it. But then you could also say, oh, you know what? We have a system. This is a blue thing. This is a gray thing. This is a red thing. This is a purple thing. Where's my purple at? And this is a brown thing. So one of the things that I have tried to do over the past few years is to color code the language, especially verbs. So we could look at what each of those things does. This is really important. This is really important. You don't have to get it right now, but you will understand it, and you will become excellent predictors of this, so that you could say, now this verb, if you look at what these parts are, so this is the segment where you pull it apart. The gloss, it's a fancy word, and all it means is now we're going to translate all of those individual components. So here I would say human, or you could say clinket, whatever. Like this, it's an interesting word, because in this case, this doesn't mean they know humans. If I say clinket ausaku, what do you think I'm saying?
I know Lingi.
They know the Tlingit language, right?
They know.
They know, right? So that's what this translates to. They know Tlingit language. So we have to add some things there, right? This is really interesting. And we were doing this a little bit this summer. We were trying to find things like, oh, like in English, that took 8 words, and Tlingit I could do it in 4. That was really interesting. But it's because our words like smash a million things in there. So what we'll learn is this is a third-person object, them or it. This is a perfective marker. So perfective means not tense, not about time, but what perfective marker in this case means, it says, let's talk about it just whether or not it already happened. That's all the perfective marker does in this case. It says, did it happen or not? And then this is what the classifier being in this mode says, yes, it did happen. You would have klesh in front of it and sa instead of si if it didn't happen. Okay? And then this 0 marker is who's doing the verb. This is a third person they. So they know it, they know them. Again, this is not a time marker because this verb can be happening right now. Tlingit likes to look at event more than time. Tatke ausaku, yidat ausaku. They knew it yesterday, they know it today. But that verb didn't change. It doesn't mean it's always that way. Some people who came among us, they're like, their language is so simple. It doesn't even change for time. It's like, bro, we got something way different. It's not about being simple. Like, Tlingit is not simple. Okay. So these things, there's some things in here, like that classifier and that verb root, they will always be there. It'll be S classifier and ku. That won't change. You can change this to put it in the future, to make it negative, to do different things like that. And you could change this to what is known. Okay? So for example, if we just, let's do a little cut and paste here. We'll come to Ashaguk in a second. But if we came up here and we said, and you can write this stuff down, you can screenshot this stuff. Every time we're done with class, I will save these notes. I will upload them to our class webpage. Tlingitlanguage.com, learning Tlingit, intermediate Tlingit. Slideshows, every slideshow I show you goes up there. Not the whole thing, because I don't want you to have all the answers. And everything that we do as far as notes. Like if I'm taking notes up there like this, they will go up there. I save them as a PDF, so they're not the most editable things, but that's all I could do. Okay. So if we took the Tlingit out of here, and you say, this is, whoops, and let me change the color. This goes to Ausaku, and that translates to they know it or them. Okay. So I'm going to make this a little. Okay. So there's all the parts. So you can change that part, right? So if I want to change that to I, anybody know how that would change?
That'd be Shaa, right?
Shaa, right? This is high level stuff, but what we're trying to do right now is just see where we're at. So if I change this to Shaa, that triggers another change. Anybody know what that second change is? It has to happen now.
Doesn't
It's
it
gonna
go to
compress.
hua?
It'll be Ochsuku.
Almost.
Doesn't the classifier change?
Nope. Okay, we got one in
The Abe goes to null.
Yes. Okay. Yes, right? So this letter A, that is the object marker when the subject marker is also third person. So if you have a 0 subject marker right there like that, it has to be or else you'd have wusaku, and it doesn't sound right. If there's an object and a subject, right? And we're going to get to this stuff. The object is the one it happens to, the subject's the one who does it, right? The mouse ate the cheese. The dog chased the cat. Oh, I got a good cat verb for you folks. For the cat who wouldn't come in front of the camera earlier. We're going to do a series of stories. So after we talked, we are going to do Anakidak, because that happened right here. We are going to do Battle of the Giants, because that happened on the and it's Xeiyí country. So then we'll cover the 2 big territories that are in this area. I think we'll do Qaqit, since you mentioned it, Sani. I've got Anashahash telling that story, the loon story. And then I think we're going to do like a fun one. what do they call sagut. So these two kids, we wrote a story about these two kids, and that's where the dog and the cat verbs are in there. And you folks will see what I'm talking about. So then, instead of ausaku, I was hearing it, so there's no the has to go away. You're going to learn some patterns. When you have an active marker in cha, you get chua every single time. Every single time. Just jumps over it and it becomes chua. So now you get chuasaku. Right? So you are going to learn these patterns. We are going to get off book, and the only way to get off book is to start to internalize pattern. It's still memorization, but it's in a different form. And you are also going to learn the underlying parts. This is day one, so it's okay. It's okay. This is really like a Hakshage, Norman James would say, Knachoe nashaye hasayatinen hayuchatangitin. Achhawe adatawe yuhas tuthat hastu dachanki hastu yaag. So Norman James, who's Dr. Oady from Carcross, he told me Tlingit people, they used to be able to see way out into the future in the Tlingit language. And I always wondered what he was talking about when he'd tell me that. He says, because they were always talking about, always thinking about this place they would reserve for their grandchildren, right? And it's just a really neat concept. So what we're doing right now is looking into the future a little bit. And we're going to pull it back. So nobody panic. It's okay. And you will reach a phase as well. You'll be like, oh yeah, that's of course that class part is going to do that. It has to do that. Okay. So this now becomes, I know it, or them, chosaku. And a lot of us have probably said that. Chosaku, ausaku. So we could even make one more change to this. And we said, oh, well, what if this stayed 0? This was but now I want to say they know me. What should I change? If you haven't done this, don't worry. We're going to go through all these charts and lists, a whole bunch of stuff.
It becomes
Close.
Yep.
Wait, one in the room. Hold
A
on.
would become hut.
Hold on.
Does the A change?
Yes. What does it change to? Khat. Oops. And now I would separate it now. It's going to have space plus space. There are some object pronouns that are not written as part of the verb prefix. They are their own separate words. And the khat is one of them. Okay? So now that's the same, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. What do you think this might, how would we write that? So the saku part is going to stay the same. What else has to go?
Doesn't the perfective mess with hut?
It's going to come after it.
Oh.
So you are going to have khat. Whoops, I can't. I'm a big deal. Okay. Not ow, because the has turned, has become a khat. Khat.
wasiku, usiku.
Khat wasaku. They know me. And that could be a present tense verb. Okay, I don't have to get too excited. Okay. So if Tlingit ausaku is they know Tlingit, what is Tlingit ashaguk? And I just want to, I'm going to keep saying this.
Speak like it.
Okay, hold on one second. If you're not sure, don't feel like you don't belong. We're just, all we're doing right now is just testing the waters. How deep is it here? Oh, that's deep. How deep is it here? That's shallow. And some of us have been in the deep waters a little bit, and it's totally fine. Because we're gonna back way up and do a whole bunch of stuff, and we're gonna step by step this whole thing. So yes.
So is gook more like knowing how to do something as opposed to knowing a thing?
That's it. That's it, right? So like you might know someone who could tell you everything there is to know about baseball. I could tell you when it started. I could tell you what the what the WAR is, their WAR. I was trying to read this thing. I was like, what is this stat they're showing me? It's like I just read this like huge paragraph. I was like, oh sure, right? It makes no sense to me, right? But some people they know it. They know everything there is. They know about launch angles and swings and pitches and all this other stuff. But if you give them a bat, they can't go hit it. So there's ausaku, ashaguk. So when you talk about the language, Tlingit ausaku, they know Tlingit. Tlingit ashaguk. They can put it together. They can speak it. Our goal is to get to both. And we might not all become master level storyteller orators, but we should all, at least when something happens, right? One time Cyril George got up and spoke, and I was into it. He was amazing. And sitting right in front of me was Nora Downhauer. She just got so excited. And she turned to Richard Downhauer and she said, it's poetry. It's poetry. Just like how excited she got about it. And I want you to get to the point where you can listen to something, where you listen to Tlingit and you're like, okay, something amazing just happened. Right? Now I remember when I got to that point, I was like, I don't really understand, but I know that was amazing. Right? Like I was there when Cyril said, right? Which I should cue up that. We should just watch that video. Okay, hold on. Any questions?
No questions, but I did want to point out to other folks who are as nervous as I am that it looks like, according to the syllabus, at least the first 4 to 6 lessons are going to be review. So we got a little time.
That's right. Okay, we should look at the syllabus. Hold on. No, not that. Okay. We will get to Chafka. We'll probably end class on that. So if anybody's nervous about how they're going to do, here's the secret. I believe in a decolonized grading system. What does that mean? If you show up and you do all the things, you get an A. That's how I grade. I don't grade on, there's no percentage about how well you did with any type of thing. I don't think that helps anybody, even outside of learning Tlingit. But especially when it comes to learning a language, I don't think attaching some sort of grade to it, which affects financial aid, which affects GPA, which affects so many different things, I just don't think it's a good idea. Now, like some people might get upset by that. Say, lazy person's gonna starve in the winter. Well, I don't believe any of us are lazy. I like that phrase, but it's, it's foundational to Tlingit. But I feel like there's enough pressure. It's difficult already. So as far as like when we look at the syllabus, when we look at your performance, especially if you're enrolled in the 0 credit section, like there's no grading at all. The biggest thing is like learning how to do the thing. Just become someone who learns how to do the thing. If everyone on the Zoom right now, if everyone in this room became a high fluency speaker of Tlingit, there would be more high fluency speakers than we have right now. We probably have about 11 left who are high fluency speakers. And that's a scary thing. But that means it's time to go, right? It's like you can sit there and talk about how you're going to get there for a long time. But at some point, you got to get in the boat and go. I do have drop-in times, Monday and Wednesday, 1 to 2. Thursday, 11 to 12. We can also set up other times to chat. I will do my best to be in my office during those times on campus. I can also hop on a Zoom. I'll let you folks know. Just reach out. If you can't find me, just reach out through email. I'll respond. I check my email all the time. If I'm traveling, I'll try and let everybody know. Well, you have a sub if I'm traveling. So I have taught from the kind of things in like Boston and then taught Tlingit, which was fun. But then it's also like, then I feel for people who are learning on the East Coast because it's like 11 at night by the time we're done, or 11:30. Here's the Zoom link, stays the same. That's the Zoom link for advanced Tlingit too, if you ever want to pop in and see what we're doing. We talked about that phrase. Our language saved us, our language healed us. It was there when Kasech Selena Evers said it. We'll look at those on Thursday. Those are important phrases. And we're going to look at some other phrases that are foundational to what we do. And we're going to listen to the recording from Cyril, recording from Nora, to get ourselves inspired, right? It's good that you've come here. This is a safe space to learn Tlingit. We're not going to make fun of each other. We're not going to, if something happens in here that's funny, okay, there's a recording of it. But if someone says something, right? If someone says goose kwan instead of gutski kwan, it's okay. One is people at the base of the clouds. One would be people of the vagina, apparently. I've heard people say it. Like we could say it's funny, like it happened. But let's talk about the thing that happened and don't say, unéi, he made a big mistake tonight. You know what he said? Like, because then it becomes about a person, right? There's a line between atwushuk and kawashuk. So atwushuk means to laugh, and kawashuk means to deride someone with your laughter, to make fun of them. So we're always conscious of that. Ask questions. If you need help, ask for help. It's okay. It's always okay to ask for help. It's always okay to say, none of this makes sense to me. And then we'll take another approach. We'll figure out some different ways to take a look at it. You should be speaking in here. Don't get to the point where you're just waiting for the class to end so you don't have to talk. Even if you're not fully that's not your thought at the forefront of your mind, just make sure that that's not. You're doing what you can to make sure that doesn't happen. We can always meet outside, talk about things that might help. You can always give me feedback. Say, hey, you know what? We should do more sample sentences talking about this thing. And we'll do it. You're going to know a bunch of phrases. You're going to know a bunch of words. But you're also going to know a lot about the structure of Tlingit. It's a fun language. It's an incredible, incredible language. And we're going to look at the parts and ways that it functions. Yigoayach Juan, Yichiko Hascha, Yichitas Husiach Yidat, Yigoayach Juan, Konech to Artitze, Yigoayach Juan, Wuhanaya Hashilkohas, Hastu Itrian to At, Yigoayach Juan, Shtikat Yuhan. I was there when she said that one. That's Shkate, Jesse John. Here's a bunch of resources for the class. These are also on the top part of clinkitlanguage.com, Learning Tlingit, Intermediate Tlingit. They are all there. Save these to your devices, have them accessible, get to know them. We will spend time going into them a lot, so I'll show you how I use all of these different resources. And we'll talk about what each of them are. Your goals by the end of the semester is to be able to know several hundred phrases and nouns, to identify all parts of speech. What does a postposition mean? What's an adjective? And at least you could come up with And I'm not worried about like what they do in other languages. It's just about what do these things do in Tlingit? What type of thing is this? What does it do? You'll be able to create language by using questions and statements about common topics. You'll be able to identify and properly look up verbs with higher accuracy. That means when you see a verb, you'll be like, okay, I can go find it. I'm not sure what it means, but I can go find it. And then you can express some basic wants and needs in the language. That's the goal. Try to come to class. If you can't make it, don't worry, you can watch the class. You can always watch the class. Every class is recorded and put online, but that doesn't mean don't come to the class, because like it really helps to be here in the moment. But if something comes up and you can't, you can always watch it later. And then at the beginning of the next class, you can do your, I would really love it if you participated by saying, oh, you guys did this thing, so I'm gonna do this thing, right? Whatever the thing is, right? We are going to demonstrate the language at times. We'll have different ways to do this. I don't like high pressure situations. So it is going to be like just asking you to do things like reading. Everybody's going to take turns reading some sentences, trying to translate it, or trying to look at English and translate it into Tlingit. You'll have, we might flip these actually. There'll be a translation exercise where I'll give you some Tlingit and you're going to translate it into English. You'll have some time to work on it alone, and they'll say, okay, now you guys can work together, and now we'll start to go over it together. So again, nothing is graded as far as like, this is a 70%, this is a 80%. I don't believe in that kind of stuff. And then your final is going to be to write a 1 to 2 page letter to someone in Tlingit. And you can write it to anybody that you want to. And when we do our midterm and our final, those courses are not recorded. Those classes are not recorded. Just so that there's no pressure, right? Because some people write very personal letters to an ancestor, to a sibling. I've seen all kinds of stuff. But I think we'll reverse those. Like your midterm will be a translation project. Your final will be a letter. I forgot to make that change. That was suggested last year. There is grades attached to this. My goal is everybody just gets an A. Everybody shows up and does the stuff, you get an A. If you stop coming, if you don't do the things, then it starts to get complicated. And I don't want it to be complicated because I want you to do well. You have a chance to assess the course, and this is the official assessment. I read them. They are anonymous. They do help me as an instructor. They also help me because, well, they help the university as well because they get to decide whether they want to keep me. It's hard to get rid of me now, those suckers. But it also helps to just sort of, you can give me feedback, like if you have ideas, let's hear them. Hey, can we do this? Yeah, we can do that. Hey, can we do this? Sure. If anybody discriminates against you at the university, you have options. No matter whether that's here in another class, whether that's some sort of, any sort of identifying feature about you, if you feel like someone is treating you differently because of it, you can let me know. We also have other resources for you. I'm always advocating for equity and for just fairness, that people could just be themselves and just be fine. You shouldn't have to fit into something just to succeed. If you have anything that you need in terms of things that help you study, if you need some extra time, if you have any sort of things that hinder your learning historically or now, we can work with that, we can figure it out. Someone did tell me once, they said, I had a professor who used to write notes with their right hand and erase them with their left hand. And she said, that's what I feel like when I'm in your class. I was like, oh, that's really cool. She says, no, that's horrible experience for me. So I try to be conscious of that. I get excited. I get sometimes a little bit random. But you do have a lot of resources to help you. The classes are recorded. You can watch them again. You could also say, hey, could we go over this thing again? I was starting to get it, but I feel like I'm not getting it, or I forgot it. We got all kinds of time. Title IX is very important here at the university. This is to protect you in your academic journey and your language journey. If you're experiencing any forms of harassment, any sort of discrimination based on gender, any sort of sexual violence, any sort of domestic violence. And if those things are stopping you from succeeding here, you do have options. And so there's some numbers here, there's some folks to contact. And I think the primary message that I would send here is like, don't harass anybody. Don't sexually assault anybody. Don't do things that are going to cause violence in our community because it's just going to cause disruptions on top of trauma. But also, you should all know, I'm not saying don't tell me, but if I hear something about something that is in this realm, a sex crime, some kind of stalking, harassment, violence, I am obligated to report it because that protects you in your academic journey. So also, if you were in some sort of abusive situation, you do have an out. If you were to let me know, I would let other people know, and we would all help to make sure that you're safe. Let's see. The plan. This is the plan. It's a roadmap, and it's written on a napkin, and it can just be adjusted at any given time. I do have a process for teaching Xingyí, and we spend a couple weeks just reviewing stuff. Some of this is going over just like to test some things. Hey, have you ever seen this before? Have you ever done this before? Let's do some of this. Then we're going to sort of go through the beginning Xingyí workbook kind of quickly, but we'll see. Just to sort of take another look at it, refresh our minds, and take a look at it with the idea of we're building onto it into intermediate Xingyí. We're going to go through kind of a process of topics with the goal of increasing our fluency and also increasing our fluency in this third language of linguistics, like where we talk about classifiers and we talk about, there's a whole bunch of stuff. It's very fun. There's lots to it. You'll never run out of things to think about and wonder about because Xingyí it's like a lake with no bottom. It's like that lake goes all the way down. And that's a lot how Xingyí is. But you're not going to drown. We're going to grow gills. We're going to do all the things that we need to do. And that's it. So we do have midterms the week of October 17th. And you will do your finals during final week. We'll meet here on Tuesday during finals week, and that'll be our last class. You'll read your letters. We'll hang out for a bit, eat some food. And then we'll take a break until next semester. Anything else before we go?
Thank you for your little tidbits of information that you put in with your linguistics. It makes it bearable. The little words of wisdom, like you said something about our grandparents put it there for us. That was really nice. Thank you for that. It's sometimes really trying to remember all this stuff and go, oh, wait a minute, it's in the book, but that kind of put the Band-Aid on it. So thank you.
Yeah, and then everyone's going to have different paths. Like some of this stuff is really going to make sense and interest you. Some of this stuff is not. But we'll all get there, right? We will get there. And if you ever feel like you're ready to quit, please reach out. Please reach out so that we can make sure that you don't fall out of the canoe. Because it's like the canoe is going, like, maybe I'll just roll out into the water and let English drift me away, right? Because what it takes is a decolonization of the mind, which sounds really beautiful, but when you really get into it, it's murky. It's murky and odd and scary, but you're going to be just fine. There's this line, okay, we'll end with this, it's a little bit emotional. When my mother had cancer, she called me scared because she said, they're giving up. They're giving up and I'm scared to die. So I would tell her about this raven story where Raven shot this duck, skinned it, had his mom walk inside and she became this duck. And he said, tuwasáakw just Xingyí aadé ka iguchtlatid. Tuwasáakw just Xingyí aadé ka iguchtlatid. And he said to her, you're going to be okay. Nothing's going to happen to you. You'll just float on the waves of the world. And it was just it was a moment, to just try and comfort her in those times, but I would say I would comfort you in these times as well. I say you're going to be okay. You're going to succeed. Even if it feels like it might be difficult or even sometimes impossible. It happens. It's okay. You come out of it, and then you'll be like, oh man, I remember when that thing was terrifying. But it wasn't even that bad. Okay. 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 Okay, just checking the chat. Okay, sheesh. See you on Thursday.
Sheesh.
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 By the way, according to the doctor, I'm going to be coughing a lot for like the next 10 days. It's like a